Hello, I'm Jim Morningstar, Director of Transformations and your guide through this 8-session advanced practicum and apprenticeship in community building. The focus of this 6th class is identifying and handling unconscious communication patterns that naturally arise in a growing community. The stages of community growth. In our human history, we have thousands of years of experience of belonging to a tribe, a clan, or a city-state. In Central America, each native village had its own colors and textile designs. In Celtic cultures, different tartan patterns were associated with particular regions and clans. This practice of identifying oneself and banding together with others is carried on today by countries, schools, gangs, political parties, and sports fans alike. It's a social impulse to gather together with like-minded purpose, to feel like part of a group and part of a tradition and culture. It serves an important purpose. So, what can we do to acknowledge our long history of banding together in communities and to specifically enhance the sense of community in our virtual world today? Scott Peck started the Foundation for Community Encouragement to promote the formation of communities which are the first step towards uniting humanity and saving us from self-destruction. Characteristics of true community. In his book, The Different Drum, Community Making and Peace, Peck suggests that the community has 3 essential ingredients and most salient characteristics: inclusivity, commitment, and consensus. Members accept and embrace each other, celebrating their individuality and transcending their differences. They commit themselves to the effort and the people involved, and they make decisions and reconcile their differences through consensus. Characteristics also include realism. Members bring together multiple perspectives to better understand the whole context of the situation. Decisions are more well-rounded and humble rather than one-sided and arrogant. Contemplation. Members examine themselves. They are individually and collectively self-aware of the world outside themselves, the world inside themselves, and the relationship between the two. A safe place. Members allow others to share their vulnerability, heal themselves, and express who they truly are. A laboratory for personal disarmament. Members experientially discover the rules for peacemaking and embrace its virtues. They feel and express compassion for each other as fellow human beings. A group that can fight gracefully. Members resolve conflicts with wisdom and grace. They listen and understand, respect each other's gifts, accept each other's limitations, celebrate their differences, bind each other's wounds, and commit to a struggle together rather than against each other. A group of all leaders. Members harness the flow of leadership to make decisions and set a course of action. It is the spirit of community that itself leads, and not a single individual. A spirit. The true spirit of community is the spirit of peace, love, compassion, and power. Members may view the source of the spirit as an outgrowth of the collective self, or as the manifestation of a higher will. The 4 stages of community formation. Now, based on his experience with community building workshops, Peck said that community building typically goes through 4 stages. The first, pseudo-community. In the first stage, well-intentioned people try to demonstrate their ability to be friendly and sociable. but they do not really delve beneath the surface of each other's ideas or emotions. They use obvious generalizations and mutually established stereotypes in speech. Instead of conflict resolution, pseudo-community involves conflict avoidance, which maintains the appearance or facade of true community. It also serves only to maintain positive emotions instead of creating safe space for honesty and love through uncomfortable emotions as well. While they still remain in this phase, members will never really obtain evolution or change as individuals or as a group. Chaos, the second stage. Now, the first stage towards real positivity is paradoxically a period of negativity. Once the mutually sustained facade of bonhomie is shed, negative emotions flood through. Members start to vent their mutual frustrations, annoyances, and differences. It is a chaotic stage, but Peck describes it as a beautiful chaos because it's a sign of healthy growth. The third stage is emptiness. In order to transcend the stage of chaos, members are forced to shed that which prevents real communication. Biases and prejudices, need for power and control, self-superiority, and other similar motives which are only mechanisms of self-validation and or ego protection, must yield to empathy, openness, to vulnerability, attention, and trust. Hence, this stage does not mean people should be empty of thoughts, desires, ideas, or opinions. Rather, it refers to emptiness of all mental and emotional distortions, which reduce one's ability to really share, listen to, and build on those thoughts, ideas, etc. It's often the hardest step in the four-level process, as it necessitates the release of patterns which people develop over time in a subconscious attempt to maintain self-worth and positive emotion. While this is therefore a stage of fana, in Sufism, annihilation of the self. In a certain sense, it should be viewed not merely as death, but as a rebirth of one's true self at the individual level and at the social level of the genuine and true community. The fourth stage, true community. Having worked through emptiness, the people in the community enter a place of complete empathy with one another. There is a great level of tacit understanding. People are able to relate to each other's feelings. Discussions, even when heated, never get sour, and motives are not questioned. A deeper and more sustainable level of happiness obtains between the members, which does not have to be forced. Even and perhaps especially when conflict arises, it's understood that they are part of a positive change. Now, in our current community, I believe we have experienced some of all these stages in a virtual medium. After the general good feeling and sharing of positive intentions at the onset of our advanced practicum in apprenticeship and community building, members began to share the chaos of their everyday lives, the pain and the triumphs, the agony and the ecstasy of authentic living, if you will. This is sure to create discomfort at times for both those sharing and those receiving. Even how people communicate or do not produces reactions from others, which might be to have judgments in comparing oneself favorably or unfavorably, and perhaps at times to withdraw from engagements or to express differences. Some of this has been done in this class on a one-to-one basis outside of the general email thread. Greater challenges come when trying to negotiate these differences in values, opinions, or styles of communication more directly in group, which we will address in our class today. I would venture that most people in this class had many of these dialogues internally and came to their own inner resolutions. Processes like the marketplace exercise gives more opportunity for external interactions and mutual resolutions. Indeed, this is a skill-building class rather than a personal growth seminar, so it was not set up for highlighting conflict resolution. But as part of the skill set of a community builder, it is to know how to handle differences when they inevitably arise in a diverse group. As Scott Peck points out, this is an important part of true growth. That is, we share our emotional self with each other and grow from that sharing. The third stage Peck describes as emptiness. Emptiness of all mental and emotional distortions which reduce one's ability to really share, listen to, and build on those thoughts, ideas, etc. Now, each of us has had to navigate this stage as we listen to each other and modeled genuine acceptance of differences in our values, desires, and behaviors. Again, I suspect there's been much growth for us in this process of self-disclosure in which we are engaging. The final stage he describes is true community, in which, quotes, people in the community enter a place of complete empathy with one another. There is a great level of tacit understanding. People are able to relate to each other's feelings. Now, I sense we've taken greater steps in this direction in a virtual sense than we might have imagined we could. That was my hope, and so far has certainly been borne out. And I suspect we will go further in our time in the final 3 months. I witnessed this play out for 33 years in the in-person groups that met together for 1, 2, or 3 years in the School of Integrative Psychology. That we can start to reach some of these levels in an 8-month virtual group is a testament to the quality and courage of our members and how we have evolved as a species in this communication era. Creating tradition and finding identity. There's a Mayan temple in the Yucatan Peninsula that was begun in the 9th century and built up over hundreds of years. The Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris took 182 years to build, beginning in the 12th century. More recently, in Washington, D.C., the National Cathedral took 83 years to build, starting in 1907. Now, these are just 3 examples of large and impressive sites built by our forerunners and ancestors as places for people to gather and creating community. Today, when we think about some of the largest and most expensive communal sites in American cities, we see incredible feats of engineering designed as massive gathering places that attract tens of thousands of visitors on a single day, like stadiums. It's part of our cultural history that our ancestors built temples and cathedrals as places for gathering and practicing rituals that bond us in communal practices. And today, we build sports stadiums for the same reasons. But our virtual world has changed the face of community even more radically and has the potential to be more inclusive than ever before. Some would say that human evolution has sped up dramatically in recent history, that the information a freshman learns in the first year of college, for example, is largely obsolete by the time they graduate in 4 years. I think, however, there are principles of human interaction that, although they may get updated with different language, do not become obsolete from generation to generation. These principles of communication help build communities of spirit even in the virtual world across cultures and national boundaries that reinforce mutual respect and empowerment, sustaining collaborative, conscious growth in our emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. Enhancing effective communication in your inner communities. We are communicating to ourselves continually during the day. The voices inside you have been programmed by family and cultural patterns as much as, or perhaps even more, than the polite forms of communication we've been taught socially. Listen to what you say to yourself when you think you have made a mistake. How forgiving and accepting are your messages to yourself? Beyond this, how forgiving and accepting are your inner messages to others with whom you disagree or have an adverse emotional reaction? I used to think it was noble of me to keep my mouth shut when I was critical of another. Now, I'm not suggesting you should voice your criticisms, but I am suggesting there's a great benefit in confronting your inner voices that replay critical messages about yourself and others. Know it or not, allowing these voices to go on has an adverse effect on yourself and energetically is transferred to others, even if you have a smile on your face. In general, the way we talk to and treat ourselves is the ground from which we think of and behave towards others. Inner peace and integration is the solid ground for all other harmony and success. I send and receive blessings for our circle and all sentient beings till next class. Blessings in light and love.